άρχισε η οδύσσιά μου. Ο γουλιάδος μου, ο Ερίκος ο Σεβίλιας, ο οποίος ήταν στο Auschwitz πέθανε με τον αριθμό.
Ερίκος Σεβίλιας από την Αθήνα.
Μετά
Then Prime Minister Suzuki did something unheard of. He asked the Emperor to bring the deadlock and make a decision.
4 days later, radical soldiers attempted a coup to prevent a surrender.
Told them he wanted to end the suffering.
They failed and bear the unbearable. At dawn, on the day that
Hello,
Emperor
everyone. In this
Hirohito
episode
was
of
to
70
broadcast
Seconds,
an announcement to the Japanese people that the war was over, General Anami prepared to end his life in the time-honored tradition of seppuku.
It is the date when Japanese Emperor Hirohito announced over the radio that the country will lay down its arms and end the war.
His suicide note read, "My death is my apology for my great crime."
This doesn't come easy. After years of war, the Allies delivered the Potsdam Declaration requiring the Axis to surrender. To press Japan, the U.S. dropped 2 atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which killed more than 240,000 people within the first 4 months. On August 14th, Japan decided to give up and accept all terms in the Potsdam Declaration. And that's how the justice wins over the evil. I'm Wang Yizhi with CCTV News. See you next time.
The war was over. At last, the troops were going home. There was jubilation around the world.
The day of days for America and her allies. Crowds before the White House await the announcement from the President that the Japs have surrendered unconditionally.
I have received this afternoon a message from the Japanese government in reply to the message forwarded to that government by the Secretary of State on August 11th. I deem this reply a full acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration, which specifies the unconditional surrender of Japan. In the reply, there is no qualification.
Reporters rush out to relay the news to an anxious world and touch off celebrations throughout the country. Washington is jubilant, and in Chicago, more than 1 million sing and dance in the streets in the biggest celebration the Windy City has ever seen. Joy is unconfined. It was 4 o'clock Pacific time in San Francisco when the announcement came, and people were quick to leave their offices for an impromptu, spontaneous celebration. But it was in that city's Chinatown where Victory Day was the most joyous. Firecrackers that had been hoarded for years are set off in a triumphant roar. Seattle let loose all the pent-up emotions of 3 years and 8 months of war, and to the victors, the spoils. The pose may not be dignified, but the young lady is not the least upset. She's wonderful. The Navy photographer gives us a preview of Admiral Halsey's ambition to ride the Emperor's white horse through the streets of Tokyo. Their rallying cry is, "Go to it, Admiral," and so say we all of us. But the greatest, wildest celebration of all was in New York's Times Square, where 2 million people, by far the greatest in the city's history, filled the streets all day, waiting for the official word. A hilarious, happy throng, they cheered every rumor that it was all over. And when President Truman's announcement came at 7 o'clock, the lid really blew off. Tens of thousands of proud American flags dotted the square, and as the day wore on, hilarity reached a high peak. Far into the night, the happy crowd screamed their relief at the end of the greatest war in history. From early Tuesday morning, the celebration went on for 24 hours. New York never celebrated like this before, but never did they have a better reason. That sign means just what it says. It's the end of gas rationing. The gleeful cry of "fill her up" is echoing throughout the land, for America is rolling again without benefit of OPA. Imagine doing that a month ago. And there's another little item that gave you spots in front of your eyes. Yes, we're rolling again. Don't rub your eyes when you see what's coming up. Remember, this is what used to be known as service. Check your tires, mister. How's your oil and water? And step on it, you guys. The war's over and we've got places to go.
The beer hall putsch was a failed coup attempt by the Nazi Party leader Adolf Hitler to seize power in Munich, Bavaria. During 8th to 9th November 1923, about 2,000 men marched to the center of Munich, where they confronted the police, which resulted in the death of 16 Nazis and 4 policemen. Hitler himself was wounded during the clash. In the early 20th century, many of the larger cities of southern Germany had beer halls where hundreds or even thousands of people would socialize in the evenings, drink beer, and participate in political and social debates. Such beer halls also became the host of occasional political rallies. One of Munich's largest beer halls was the Burgerbräu Keller. This was the location of the famous beer hall putsch. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I, sounded the death knell of German power and prestige. Like many Germans of the period, Hitler believed that the treaty was a betrayal, with the country having been stabbed in the back by its own government. Particularly as the German army was popularly thought to have been undefeated in the field. In 1923, Hitler enlisted the help of World War I General Erich Ludendorff for an attempted coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch. The NSDAP used Italian fascism as a model for their appearance and policies. Hitler wanted to emulate Benito Mussolini's March on Rome of 1922 by staging his own coup in Bavaria, to be followed by a challenge to the government in Berlin. Hitler and Ludendorff sought the support of Staatskommissar, State Commissioner, Gustav Ritter von Kahr, Bavaria's de facto ruler. However, Kahr, along with police chief Hans Ritter von Caesar and Reichswehr General Otto von Lossow, wanted to install a nationalist dictatorship without Hitler. On 8 November 1923, Hitler and the SA stormed a public meeting of 3,000 people organized by Kahr in the Burgerbräu Keller, a beer hall in Munich. Interrupting Kahr's speech, he announced that the national revolution had begun and declared the formation of a new government with Ludendorff. Retiring to a back room, Hitler, with handgun drawn, demanded and got the support of Kahr, Caesar, and Lasso. Hitler's forces initially succeeded in occupying the local Reichswehr and police headquarters, but Kahr and his cohorts quickly withdrew their support. Neither the army nor the state police joined forces with Hitler. The next day, Hitler and his followers marched from the beer hall to the Bavarian War Ministry to overthrow the Bavarian government, but police dispersed them. 16 NSDAP members and 4 police officers were killed in the failed coup. Hitler fled to the home of Ernst Hanf Stengel and by some accounts contemplated suicide. He was depressed but calm when arrested on November 11, 1923 for high treason. His trial before the Special People's Court in Munich began in February 1924, and Alfred Rosenberg became temporary leader of the NSDAP. On 1 April, Hitler was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment at Landsberg prison. There, he received friendly treatment from the guards, and he was allowed mail from supporters and regular visits by party comrades. Pardoned by the Bavarian Supreme Court, he was released from jail on 20 December 1924, against the state prosecutor's objections. Including time on remand, Hitler served just over 1 year in prison. While at Landsberg, Hitler dictated most of the first volume of Mein Kampf to his deputy, Rudolf Hess. Dedicated to Thule Society member Dietrich Eckart, was an autobiography and exposition of his ideology. The book laid out Hitler's plans for transforming German society into one based on race. Some passages implied genocide. Published in 2 volumes in 1925 and 1926, it sold 228,000 copies between 1925 and 1932. 1 million copies were sold in 1933, Hitler's first year in office. The 16 fallen were regarded as the first blood martyrs of the NSDAP and were remembered by Hitler in the foreword of Mein Kampf. The Nazi flag they carried, which in the course of events had been stained with blood, came to be known as the Blutfahne, blood flag, and was brought out for the swearing in of new recruits in front of the Feldherrnhalle when Hitler was in power. Accordingly, the most significant outcome of the putsch was a decision by Hitler to change NSDAP tactics, which would demand an increasing reliance on the development and furthering of Nazi propaganda.